Hello and welcome to this show. Today we have with us one of the most distinguished personalities in this country, former Chief Election Commissioner of India, Sir J.M. Lyngdoh. Sir, welcome to the show. And we'll start with two of the most controversial elections that you conducted. One is Kashmir, second is Gujarat. And you conducted Kashmir election at a time when there was a call of boycott, there were massacres, high tension, high drama. How did you handle that situation? It is one of the historic elections in the history of this country.
The most difficult part of that election actually people normally don't talk about, and that was about surrendered militants. The first journey we made to the valley and met candidates. The non-government party candidate said, we can't campaign because ex-militants are threatening our lives. So we realized that this was the key, and unless we had a solution, we wouldn't have a good election at the end of the day.
How big was the pressure?
These ex-militants surrendered to the police. They surrender without conditions, and they're used by the police subsequently for any nefarious activity which the police would want them to do. So we wrote to the Home Ministry, we wrote to the state government, and we wrote to the army, and they all denied that the existence of such people. So we sent somebody called K.J. Rao, who's now very well famous, especially in electoral matters. Yeah. So he went to the valley and traveled on his own without any escort or anything like that. He met a lot of people who, in any case, were unhappy with the ex-militants. So they were forthcoming with details, and eventually he was able to confront all three, the army, the state government, and the police, of course, and was able to tell them which ex-militants they were commanding. So they couldn't deny. Those ex-militants were paraded before him, and they were confined. It was only then that we could think of doing a proper election.
What was the most difficult task in that process? Taking people into confidence?
No, this was the most difficult.
This was the most difficult task. People were ready for that process.
The confidence in J&K grew after we had dealt with the Gujarat election. In other words, we had already decided to postpone the Gujarat election. Yeah. And then the Kashmiris realized that we were doing our work honestly. So they started taking their own elections seriously.
Seriously. Which was, in your view, was the most crucial election, Gujarat or Kashmir?
Gujarat was simple. There was nothing
Gujarat
to it.
was simple.
Very simple. And in the circumstances being that over 50,000 voters had shifted and they had not been enfranchised in the new places, there's no question of doing an election. But J&K had a whole lot of problems.
There were international problems, and the problems in Gujarat were more domestic.
Yes.
That was the most important difference between the two. Coming to the election reforms that we are talking nowadays, how strong do you feel there is a need for reforms in our whole process? You have gone through it, you have experienced it. How strong is the need, and what are the most important points we need to focus upon?
Basically, the rubbish which you see in the Indian polity and Indian governance today, all this money and making money and corruption and so on, is largely the result of first past the post. Because in first past the post, you're seeing individuals fight it out in the constituencies. And for various reasons, it is perceived that the person who spends most is likely to win. So money is got from all quarters, never mind how. So this first past the post has to be done away with. And in its place, you can have proportional representation. Because in proportional representation, the contest will be between parties, not between individuals. So that amount of money is not going to be required.
So you're suggesting an entirely different system of going about it.
It has to be done because in first past the post, there's no hope.
It spoils the whole fabric of the system.
You have to cut at the root of the requirement of all this money.
So what is stronger that plays role in our elections? Is it a money power or is it the muscle
No,
power?
money is the main thing.
Not muscle power.
No, because you see the money is made in such a way that you require criminals to operate. That is why you have such bad people. See a minister who shall we say, milks all the money in his department for this purpose, is obviously one of the biggest criminals. And the bureaucrats who help him, are equally big criminals. The police who see all this and who don't do anything, they're equally criminals. So it requires criminals to operate.
Another view that is coming forward now is that Anna Hazare is also speaking about is right to recall. Do you think right to recall is a feasible option with the kind of population and kind of size we have?
It'll be difficult to operate. I mean, if it's a question of operating across the board, because most representatives in India today would fail the test. And if you're going to do recall in thousands of cases simultaneously, it'll be next to impossible to handle. You could do a few cases, say by drawing a lot or something, but that would be symbolic. It would not answer the question because the same first past the post would continue to breed all these toxic elements in the polity. That's why I say you have to change the system.
There is no point in making stopgate arrangements.
There's no point in trying all that.
Trying rest of the things without changing the roots of it. How strong is the pressure in India when we conduct elections? Because it's a big country, the game of power is very, very staunch, and election commission is the body which conducts it. How strong is the pressure?
Well, there's a lot of experience in the commission, so there's not too much pressure really. There would be some strategic points where you have to take a proper decision, and if you're bold enough to take that decision, everything's all right.
People always say that there are voters' lists are manipulated. There are bogus voters. There is duplicate voting.
It's very true because the moment a political party comes to power, the first thing it does is it gets all the officers that it needs. I mean, because they need not only to make money, they need to change the voters list. And so you have a collector who's collaborating in each district, and the train of officers below him. It's very helpful, and you can do all these things. That is why, at least 6 months before an election, the Election Commission usually has to check that list again very thoroughly, and usually by a different set of officers. In Andhra Pradesh in 2004, they had more than 5 million bogus voters.
More than 5 million bogus voters. It's a huge number. But is that the most crucial problem as far as our voting thing is concerned? Bogus voters.
It is. It's a major problem.
That's the most. That is where things get manipulated. That is the exact point where things get manipulated.
That's one of the points.
That's one of the points. How strong is the pressure from politicians on election commission? Because it's a big game. With people like you will
Frankly,
not care about pressure.
Frankly, I never saw any. Nobody spoke to me. So I can't say. I mean, if some pressure was applied at a very low level, that's a different matter. But I'm not aware of it.
How tense is the situation when elections happen in India?
Tense for who?
Tense from both sides. There are sensitive areas, there are very sensitive constituencies, and as far as the election commission is concerned, considering the quantum and the size of it.
Well, it doesn't help to be tense, and you know, I mean, they've been doing it again and again, again and again. So I think they're quite used to it.
Another controversy that came up after the 2009 elections was that electronic voting machines can be rigged. Do you think there is any substance in it?
Not a chance.
Not a chance.
It's a standalone system. So if you're sitting with a computer away, you can't communicate.
So there is no chance of tampering with the.
No chance. You have to. Well, you'll have to take out the chip and put another chip to make it behave differently. And if you're going to be able to do that with all the electronic voting machines in the country, then you know, you don't need an election to change things.
So another thing which is a very interesting thing, because you are talking about political parties, you are suggesting an entirely different system, and right now you are conducting elections of Youth Congress. How did that proposal came to you, and why did you accept it?
No, because you know, firstly is this what do you call it? The Foundation for the Advanced Management of Elections. It's a society made by ex-election commission people, and the main purpose of that is to conduct elections for other organizations. It can be anything. It can be BCCI, it can be chartered accountants, it can be anything. And Rahul Gandhi made a request. So we said fine. I mean, and we made it very clear that if some other party asks us, we do the same.
How is the response? Because usually it happens in the Congress that everything is high command.
I would say the results are very good. And we have been very strict. And as you know, in Goa also there were 1 or 2 cases where we were very strict. And I think people were generally very happy with the action taken. And on the other hand, you know, you've been able to get some kind of a legitimate leadership within the Youth Congress. And in Punjab, I think the state which we did first, there were 3 or 4 Youth Congress leaders who had been elected by us, who won the assembly elections later. So obviously, it's good from many points of view.
So as far as Goa is concerned, the decision of yours became, it was in the news for quite some time, when you disqualified Valanka Alemao from contesting the election. What were your basis behind that decision, and how would you justify it?
To tell you very frankly, the matter did not even come up to my level, because K.J. Rao was on the scene, and I think he took an instant decision, and then he reported to me later, and I said, Shabash, you've done a good job. So that's how it happened.